Well, good afternoon, wrestling fans, or good morning, or good night, depending on where you are in the world, because wrestling, as we know, is very, very global. I'm Tom Colohue. You are joining me today for the WWE Smackdown Preview, which I usually refer to as the Roman Reigns show, because Roman Reigns is the biggest name on the card for any SmackDown show. And to be honest, lately he's been pretty much the biggest name on the card for any show. Maybe apart from Goldberg. It depends how you perceive star power, really. I'm going to be talking through everything expected for SmackDown. The WWE have only announced one segment, just the one, and it was about an hour ago. Hopefully, there'll be a flurry of things that they announce in the build up to the actual show starting, because tonight I am planning to do a watch along over on Twitch if you would like to join me there. In the meantime, however, here on YouTube, let's talk wrestling. I'm going to start with the one thing that the WWE have actually announced, which is a Bayley versus Bianca Belair match. Now, this suggests to me the end of a feud, which also suggests to me that Bianca Belair or Bayley might have something else to be getting on with by the time we get to the post-show of the Royal Rumble. Really suggests it to me. Manny Santos says, hey, welcome, Manny. Glad to see you here. So it's going to be a one-on-one match, no theatrics, no running round with Otis strapped to your back, just the best you can possibly do to pick up a win against an opponent. And now Bayley's been getting wins over Bianca Belair. She has. She's also been taking losses. It's been a bad time to be Bayley, which is a hard phrase to say. But if Bianca Belair picks up the win clean here, that for me is a sign of things to come. I will have a Royal Rumble video up on YouTube at 10 p.m. tonight, so that's in 4 hours from now, essentially saying what my picks are and what the odds are, in my opinion, and using the betting averages to work out who the favourites are for the Royal Rumble this year. Michael Latina is here, says, how's it going, Tom? How's it going, Michael? Glad to see you dropping in. Things going pretty good for me. Honestly, I'm looking forward to the Royal Rumble. It's a good time to be a wrestling fan. Manny says, Bianca is my pick, but Alexa has been amazing. Alexa has been very, very good recently. And it's not impossible that she'll pick up the win, considering she did get a nice, clean win over Asuka 2 weeks ago on Raw and looked set to get another one this week on Raw. So a lot of good things going on, I'll tell you that. Right, what else have we got? Not very much, because the WWE don't have a habit of announcing things, but the top storyline on SmackDown right now continues to be the Universal Championship scene, and that is Roman Reigns' feud with Kevin Owens. Now, they managed to make things a little bit interesting using a gauntlet match, using Adam Pearce, building up Shinsuke Nakamura, and sort of by extension Cesaro in the build-up to this. However, we are definitely getting a Roman Reigns versus Kevin Owens last man standing match, so they did sort of use the elastic effect. Oh, we might do this, we might do this. Nope, we're going to do this. It's going to be a good match, certainly, and I'm not at all disappointed with the match we've got. Kevin Owens, as we know, likes to build interesting structures, so last man standing suits him really, really well. Roman Reigns at the moment is an absolute bruiser, so I think that's certainly someone that's certainly a match we can expect really good things out of. It should be very exciting, and I'm very excited for it. The last man standing format is different. They had no DQ 3 Royal Rumbles ago, which was eventually, that was the shark cage match with Jericho hanging over the ring. There was essentially won for Owens by a Braun Strowman. I can't see any of those things happening this time, so it's more likely going to be somehow involving Jey Uso. And for me, there may be a surprise in that I think we may see Jimmy Uso return at the Royal Rumble in this match as some sort of distraction. Additionally, when Kevin Owens manages to get rid of Jey Uso, but isn't able to put down Roman Reigns in that time. That is what I suspect might happen. Manny says, I just don't want to see the thing where she enters as 3 of her personas. Other women deserve a spot. There are too many people on the roster for one person to take up 3 spots. There are just far too many. With the amount of people that they announced for the Women's Royal Rumble last year, and that wasn't including anyone from NXT, there is a lot more that they could do just sticking with the women they already have, and I suspect that is exactly what they're going to do. There is no reason for them to go to that well again and overindulge themselves in bringing in too many people at once. Of course, by too many people, I mean too many versions of Alexa Bliss. So I don't see that happening, and that is a very good thing. They've also been building up towards another match between Sasha Banks and Carmella. Now, last week it was a sommelier Reginald who got beat up by Sasha Banks and did a lot of flips. He's a very, very flippy boy. That was in order to make sure that Carmella got her championship match. The match would not have happened like that if it wasn't building towards that championship match. That's why Sasha Banks agreed. That's why Carmella agreed to Reginald getting beaten up. Reginald was beaten up, but it wasn't a competitive match in that regard. So it was very much building towards this particular match. It seemed like it was going to be at the Royal Rumble. Maybe it won't be from here, but they do have a long pre-show to fill. So with that in mind, I suspect we will see Sasha Banks versus Carmella on the pre-show of the Royal Rumble, as well as potentially the tag title match between Charlotte Flair and Asuka against Shayna Baszler and Nia Jax. This leaves 2 Royal Rumbles, 2 World Championship matches as the main card, which should then nicely fit into 3 hours if they don't want to overdo it. Michael Latino has asked my thoughts on Meiko Satomura in NXT UK. I want to start with a question there. Who here actually watches NXT UK? I'm in the UK. I have interviewed many people from NXT UK. I still don't regularly watch NXT UK. There are many reasons for that. There are some people I don't really want to support, as I'm sure wouldn't be difficult for you to work out. And to be blunt, a few of those people are not common names, by which I mean I have obviously spoken with a lot of people in my line of work. I know a lot of wrestlers in the UK who know a lot of people in NXT UK, and there are people maybe you haven't heard much about who I also do not want to support. So there is that element. There is also storyline elements. I am fully aware that NXT UK has some of the best wrestling in the world. I've been to every takeover so far and did plan to go to Dublin. However, storyline-wise, not much is happening. There isn't much in the way of title changes. Meiko Satomura coming in is very helpful to that, not just for the training aspect, but also because it just adds a little more to the women's division there. They've got a very strong women's division, but Kaylee Ray has been on top for a very long time. I remember interviewing her when she first won the championship. I believe it was 2 years ago. It was a very short interview, but I still have the audio of that, and I'll play it for you at some point because I remember asking about World of Sport, where she was previous to NXT UK, and she just was very excited to have her nameplates on. I still have the little bit of recording where we were just talking about her nameplates. Good times. So I like the extra competition. It just confuses me that you have someone of Meiko Satomura's talent, and she is not main roster. It's a very good division in NXT UK already, and it's becoming less and less UK as time goes on. But maybe they wanted to tie Meiko Satomura down because of the talent that she brings, ready for the eventual launch of NXT Asia or NXT Japan, which Kairi Sane is currently contracted to, but doesn't actually exist. Manny Santos says they've only announced 12 so far. There's going to be lots of surprises. Yes, there should be quite a few surprises, and I'm excited for that. That's something I want in my Royal Rumble, surprises and differences, a bit of variation. But I think they're trying desperately not to do what they did last year and just massively over-announce. Ed Fries over on Twitch says, how scary must some idea be to scare a source that works for WWE? And everyone needs to remember that Vince can always come up with something worse than everyone else's worst case scenario. Yes, he can. There are definitely some really, really, really bad ideas that are batted around at Royal Rumble season, not just from WWE, but from fans as well. In my prediction video, which will be coming out in about 4 hours, I do mention some really unpopular names who may be making surprise appearances. There are some really scary concepts. I think a very scary one for me would be Goldberg losing to Drew McIntyre and then winning the Royal Rumble to have a rematch. But we could also work the other way. Goldberg could defeat Drew McIntyre, and then Drew McIntyre has his rematch at WrestleMania to give Goldberg that storyline. There are a lot of possibilities, but yes, Vince McMahon is a very, very creative man. That's how he has built the WWE, because of that creativity that he has. It also works both ways. He could also come up with really bad ideas, as we know. Reginald was so good at all those acrobatic spots because he was previously in Cirque du Soleil. I did not know that. That's pretty impressive. No wonder he was flipping with the best of them. Very flippy boy. Ellie Line says, please let me know if I get anyone's names wrong. I don't like to accidentally pronounce names wrong, but if you can just let me know. For example, Ed, I want to make sure I'm pronouncing your surname right because I think I've pronounced it 3 or 4 different ways. And of course, you're very regular on my Twitch, so I want to make sure I'm saying your name right. Ellie, it may be Lean, it may be Line, please let me know. How did you find Raw this past Monday? I am enjoying Randy Orton, Alexa Bliss, and The Fiend, even though The Fiend's not there. I'm somewhat enjoying the Hurt Business, but I'm not really enjoying the matches that they have because they're very predictable. There's some good stuff and some bad stuff. I don't really enjoy the humor of Miz and Morrison. That's really not for me. But I don't know. It's a show in which some people manage to make the best of a bad situation. So I would say I didn't really enjoy the full show, but I enjoyed that particular storyline. I do have a full review up on YouTube that you can always check out. Every Tuesday, my Raw review goes live. Ed says he really enjoys NXT UK. Fair enough, Ed. By all means, let us know why. There must be something. And if you're there for pure wrestling, NXT UK is a very good product. I'm a big fan of a lot of people who are there, people that I have met along the way in the indies, as it were. Kaylee Ray being one of them, Pipe and Niven being another one, Dave Mastiff. There are really talented people who I've managed to get a few interviews with over the last few years. And I think they have really promising careers, as was also the case with Rhea Ripley and Toni Storm, of course. Michael Latino says, I really like the women's division, so I watch them the most. Yep, that absolutely makes sense. The women's division in NXT UK is killing it. Sean Garner says, are Shayna and Nia winning the titles back? I suspect that they will, mostly because they need the titles off Asuka and Charlotte. If Asuka is going to be taking on someone who wins a Rumble, and if Charlotte has got the story with Lacey Evans, why are they even a tag team? They have completely independent storylines, and that is, of course, why Asuka was not helping Charlotte against Shayna Baszler and Nia Jax, because she had her own things to deal with in terms of Alexa Bliss. They have very independent storylines, so I don't think that championship reign is going to last too long. Manny says, Manny's our news guy here, and I really like that. Trish Stratus just tweeted, just got so exciting news, it just made my Royal Rumble week. You think she'll be in the Rumble? I think it's possible, but she wouldn't have got the news now. She would have been required to self-isolate for a little while in the build-up to the Rumble, so she wouldn't have just got the news. Anyone who is coming in will be required to self-isolate, at least for a little while, as so many have been in the intervening time. So I don't think she would have got the news now. If she was going to be in the Rumble, she will have known several weeks ago, and she will have asked several weeks ago, because it's a two-way street. New and Co. Welcome says, any thoughts on Meiko being the first Joshi wrestler joining the NXT UK roster? I did mention this earlier, so I'll just quickly run through it. I believe they are trying to sign people with a view to what happens after the pandemic. That means NXT India, potentially. That also means NXT Asia, where they currently have Kairi Sane as well, acting in an ambassadorial role. There is a full video on my YouTube from, I believe, June, July, August time, detailing what was going to happen in the next few months for Kairi Sane, which has come true in every possible beat. So if you want more information on that, by all means, check that out. Austin Palmiter says, could we get a big surprise in the Women's Royal Rumble number 30? Because they're telling us who number 30 is in the men's, but not the women's. Yes, I do think that is quite telling. They don't want you to tell you too much, but they are spoiling things for us a little bit. The fact that we know Edge is going to be in the men's Rumble, we are going to know who's in the women's Royal Rumble number 30. So I'd imagine that's going to be a surprise. Maybe a Beth Phoenix, maybe a Trish Stratus. I don't suspect it's going to be, for example, Bayley, because we know Bayley's going to be in the Royal Rumble. It's not a surprise. Oh, sorry, wrong way around in this one. Yeah, I forgot for a moment. They're telling us 1 and 2 in the Rumble, aren't we? But the same aspect applies. I suspect if we're finding out who number 30 is, it will be a surprise and we'll get the juices flowing a little bit. Though, to be fair, if number 30 was Karrion Kross, I'm not going to complain at that either. It'll be a very good surprise. Ed says, I've watched a great group of them through streaming services like Progress and WCPW. So there are a bunch of talented names who are prominently positioned over there. Yes, there are. And as I say, the actual match quality is incredible. Someone like Volta could do great things. His very brief appearance during a Survivor Series in which he was eliminated in short order does not tell the whole story. met the man, interviewed the man. He's way taller than me. I do have a picture of me next to him. He's stood up tall, and I'm trying to 5'10", so I'm not particularly short, but I'm not that tall either. But yeah, there are some incredible talents over in NXT UK, and there are some people who are so very talented and not deserving of it. And Vaswani says, we've seen Iron Man performance from someone every Rumble, like Mysterio, Balor, and so on. So whom do you pick for this year's Iron Man and Iron Woman of this Rumble? I think you ask this every week, and I think every week my answer is actually different. Bear with me. Logically, if we're going to have an Iron Woman, I want it to be Bianca Belair, especially if she is one of the favorites to win. That said, Rhea Ripley for me has Iron Woman written all over her because she is more of a ring general than generally let on. Usually your Iron Woman is a ring general. That means a Charlotte Flair, a Natalya, a Sasha Banks, as has been in previous years. They have been the ones who have been steering the ship, so to speak. But this is one of the reasons last year's Women's Rumble was split into two halves, because they wanted the Iron Woman to come in late because she was winning. So Bianca Belair ended up being the Iron Woman, but Alexa Bliss was the one who was the ring general calling it. You have to have someone in the Rumble who can jump in if things have gone wrong. So if you're in a situation whereby, okay, you should not still be in the Rumble, something's gone wrong here, I'm coming over, I'm eliminating you. That's what makes someone like Natalya or Charlotte Flair so perfect because of their experience. For the men's, Mysterio, Balor, they are good shouts. They have been the Iron Men previously. It's the same thing when it comes to experience. I would like it to be Cesaro. He has the experience, he has the know-how, he has the respect from his colleagues, but it could also be someone like Big E. I wouldn't want Big E to basically go for 60 minutes and then get eliminated right at the end. I think that'd really wind people up. Michael Latino says, do you think someone like Brock will win the Rumble? He's in my top 10, which, as I said, I'll go through the top 10. That video will come out at 10 o'clock tonight, so in about an hour, in about 3 hours and 40 minutes, that video will come out. I think we are unlikely to see Brock, but if we do see him, I strongly suspect he's getting a very, very good rub of the green and may end up winning it. That said, someone like Edge, for example, I think we had that surprise a little bit ruined because he's very unlikely to come out a winner. And they don't want to get people too hyped and have the moment again where it's like, oh my God, it's Edge, because lightning only strikes once. That said, we are past the days when the audience turns on Batista and the lack of Daniel Bryan. We are past those days. The WWE have earned back goodwill with the Royal Rumble recently, particularly moments like Nakamura, obviously Drew McIntyre, Asuka, Becky Lynch, certainly. They have earned the WWE some leeway. So we'll be a little bit more forgiving. Maybe not with Daniel Bryan, though. That's why I think he has got to be up there. Austin says, Tessa or Taya number 30, maybe. Certainly could be. We haven't heard anything from Tessa Blanchard for a long time. I believe it's Taya Valkyrie. I just want to make sure we're talking about the same person. So lots of possibilities, lots of them. Manny says, I hope it's Lana. Me too. It's still unfair that Lana was taken out of the Royal Rumble so that Becky Lynch could go into it. I was happy because I want Becky Lynch to win the Royal Rumble. I wanted to win everything. But it's still unfair that Lana got that opportunity taken away from her. Dominic Perez says, any information on Cesaro getting a push? Great hearing the music a couple days ago. I know you love the music. You always ask about it, and it's a very interesting little gimmick you've got going, and I like that. It's in every video that I do, by the way. It's just not in the live shows. Cesaro at the moment is getting a push. It's a sustained push. It's not likely to be a Royal Rumble push, but it is a push nonetheless. Nakamura and Cesaro are both getting pushed, even though Nakamura did not feature on last week's SmackDown. It'll be interesting to see if he features this week, because he's undoubtedly going to be in the Royal Rumble. But if he's had, for example, 2 weeks off, people will start to be suspicious. Cesaro, for me, is getting a push. Daniel Bryan is very involved in that, as he has been with many people, so expect to see more in the coming weeks. Star Wars Lounge is here. Welcome, says Hey Man. Hey to yourself. Glad to see you popping in. Nuben Co says, I've read an article on Charlotte Flair feud and Asuka again, maybe possibly at WrestleMania 37. This has been rumor for weeks now. I believe I mentioned it 3 weeks ago in here, that the fact that they are both tag team champions suggests that we are going to see some sort of disagreement between the two of them that ends up costing them the championships, and then the two of them will feud going into WrestleMania. This won't become very, very clear whether this happens until after the Rumble, because if there's no Raw winner, I would expect we will see Charlotte Flair versus Asuka. But if this is an article that's just come out saying that it's going to happen, it's been rumored for a long time now. It's not really news for me. Star Wars Lounge said, I think Edge should have been kept as a surprise for the Rumble, but I also can understand because it will get them more viewers. I agree with you. I think people will tune into the Royal Rumble anyway. It's one of those shows that it has that feel about it that you just don't want to miss it. The Royal Rumble has always been like that. So I would like to see that. And really announcing these surprises ahead of time, it's not a great thing if you want people to tune in for surprises. But if they can still deliver surprises, if they can deliver more people and so on and so forth, then that's good. But I don't know. It seems like this year won't have that many outside surprises. Inside surprises, NXT, Road Dogg, Jeff Jarrett, people like that. That's how I would expect. But maybe not so many outside surprises, apart from a few names, because obviously it's a Royal Rumble and you have to have a few. You have to have a few. Manny says, I still hope Eva is a surprise entrant. Could be. I'd say she'd get a pop, regardless of no fans. But I hope they give her the same entrance she had when she left. I really hope. That would be so much fun. Alan says, do you think it would be a good idea to announce someone weak to be announced for 30th position, and in the actual match he can be taken out by a heel or a surprise return and gets his place? Get what you're saying. I would avoid the term weak, but maybe lower down the card, certainly. Maybe like a Ty Dillinger moment when he was coming out at number 10, but he got beat up before he actually could. That's an option, but that muddies the water, especially if it's a winner. And as well, it depends. Are there many heels at the moment who would do that? Maybe like let's say Bobby Lashley is in the Rumble and he's eliminated early. MVP thinks, all right, I need to have someone in this match. So he sends Shelton and Cedric to go and beat up whoever's number 30. That's possible. If it was R-Truth, for example, he may be ideal for that. So it's an option. Number 30, they definitely want it to be a surprise, which is why I think it's probably going to be Triple H. Katana Pornzall, welcome back, says, what would you think of Edge winning the Rumble and challenging Roman? They could build up on the Spear versus Spear storyline, but Edge's spear really doesn't compare with Roman's. Really doesn't. I think, and this is something that I actually talk a lot about in the videos going up a bit later today, Edge is featured in my list of 10. But for me, he's yet to have that comeback match, like the Shawn Michaels one in 2002 at SummerSlam against Triple H. The match that just makes you think, yeah, I'm back. I can do this. Because there's been pre-recording and he's still picking up injuries. Like the Last Man Standing match at WrestleMania was broken up into segments so that they could have breaks. And of course, the greatest wrestling match ever was filmed and refilmed and refilmed. There were reshoots, and that's when he got injured. So I think a match with Randy Orton, where it's just a match, needs to happen. They need to have that moment, just as a way of saying to Edge, look, you can do this. And a way for Edge to say to them, look, I can do this. Daniel Bryan went through that as well, when he had to have the match of basically, okay, these guys are really safe workers. They will do you good. They will do everything right with you. And Daniel Bryan's there like, give me a match. Get me in a wrestling ring. I don't care who against. I want to kick someone's head off. So I'm not there for Edge winning the Rumble and challenging Roman, unless we get a situation where maybe Orton takes the championship from McIntyre, but I don't want that either. I don't think it's the best story they could tell. Star Wars Lounge says, hate to be that guy, but on a scale of 1 to 10, what's the chance of Punk being in the Rumble? I'm going to give you a 2. Okay? I'm not going to give you a 1, despite the fact that CM Punk has said again and again and again he has no interest in returning to wrestling. And he has never shown any interest in returning to wrestling. Do you remember there were rumors a couple of months ago that he had returned, he had to go to sleep under a mask and then run off? Still no evidence that was him. Still now, no evidence whatsoever that was him. I don't think he has any interest in coming back, and he has been very consistent. When it comes to the WWE, if he phoned up, if he literally put a phone call into Vince McMahon, he'd be in the Rumble that quickly. And there'd be room for AJ Lee if she wanted to return as well. However, that phone call has never happened. I don't think there's any chance of him being in the Rumble, but I'll give you a 2. Ed says, could R-Truth be getting his 30 spot back as he was taken out of the 30 spot by Nia beating him up? That was the year before last. Took me a moment there because I got to work it out. But that's the one that, that's the one that Becky Lynch was in. So, yeah, that was the year before last. So that storyline is complete. However, I'd like to see it. R-Truth is entertaining in a Royal Rumble, and you need entertainment. That's the point of a Royal Rumble. So get him in there. Get him in there. Manny says, I think Raquel should be in the Rumble. Is this Raquel Gonzalez from NXT? I think she probably will be. I think this is the year that Dakota Kai finally gets into a Royal Rumble. I've been waiting so long for it. I was a fan of her back before she signed when she was Evie working in Japan. She has such range and such personality. I'd love to see her in a Royal Rumble. I also would like to see Casey Catanzaro there again because she'll certainly do interesting things. Also, I'm confident Naomi will be back again. They will start their usual thing of, we're going to push Naomi. We're going to push Naomi. We've stopped pushing Naomi. But I think they will. Ellie says he pronounced it right. It's pronounced line, but spelled line. Okay. Thanks. I'll make sure to keep pronouncing it right. That's the hope. Alan says, who would you think can break Reigns' record of eliminating most people in a Royal Rumble match and Mysterio's record for staying the longest time in the Royal Rumble? I think we're well past the point of diminishing returns on these particular records. Because unless your plan is to have someone eliminate 29 people, you have to stop sometime. Reigns, for me, already has too many. I think Kane should have kept that record. I believe it's 13 that Reigns has. That's too many. That's too many for me, anyway. It's too many for me. Oh, yes. Bit later on, I'll get to that. But for me, that's too many. And diminishing returns, if someone goes higher, then we're all going to ask, okay, who's going to go higher than that? Who's going to go higher than that? It's similar to me if like John Cena doesn't want to take the record from Ric Flair for most championships. It's why they're on equal, as I believe Brock is equal as well, which Ed points out later on. It's an equal record. I'd like to see people maybe equal it, but I would like the idea that maybe Keith Lee gets to the point of equaling it, and it becomes like the Undertaker's streak. Everyone just wants to get that one more. Just that one more. I'd like that. For longest time as well, I'm exactly the same. Unless you're planning to just have year after year after year, longer and longer and longer, there has to be a time when you just stop the Royal Rumble. You can't have a 3-hour Royal Rumble. You can't, Vince, you cannot have a 3-hour Royal Rumble. Okay? Tom says no. Can't believe I said it's going to happen now. Star Wars Lounge says, it's a shame Kofi's injured this year. Yes, we are going to miss out on whatever creative spot he had. I said Dakota was in last year's. Really? I'm surprised if I've forgotten that. Royal Rumble 2020. Go to the Wikipedia one. It usually gives you an exact list of who was eliminated when. Is it just because I don't remember, essentially? Okay. Yep, a lot of NXT. Dakota Kai, 15th. Right, you are. I just forgot. Lasted 1 minute and 32 seconds. Not a long time. It's not a long time. But she was in it. Can't believe I forgot that. Shameful. That is shameful on me. That is bad fandom. It's bad fandom. Bad Tom. Thanks for letting me know, though, Manny. That saved some egg on my face. Katana says, I'm interested in seeing where they go with Apollo being associated with Roman. Yeah, I think this is quite interesting because it does suggest a reason for a Big E Roman feud, which has helped. It has helped the idea of so many different potential Royal Rumble winners, Big E being one of them. I think Apollo Crews could be the next Intercontinental Champion. I think this has given him an edge and some extra storyline. That's a very good thing because that extra bit of personality has been doing in the world of good that he's been getting recently. So I think Big E might be losing the championship soon, and I don't think he would mind losing it to Apollo Crews. Ed let me know that Brock owns the record as well. Manny was there at the Royal Rumble last year. Thought she was 20 or something. Okay, number 15. And yes, thank you, Ed. It's a shameful thing. Shameful. That is bad fandom. Star Wars Lounge says, do we have a number one entrant for the men's yet? Could maybe be Brock. I don't think it'll be Brock if Brock is in it. I think we've done that gimmick. We did it last year. And if you were following the Sportskeeda podcast at the time, I think it was about 2 weeks before the Rumble, I was actually able to predict exactly how the match was going to go, including the length of time that Brock was in, the fact that Kofi would be in at a certain time, and the fact that Keith Lee would be in at a certain time. Then when he would be eliminated, that it would build and build and build up to about, I believe I said it would be about 15, 12, 15, and it went up to 18 or something like that. Didn't predict Drew McIntyre would be the one to eliminate him, but I did think that would be what was going to happen. So I think they've done that now. I wouldn't like to see it revisited. We don't have a number one yet. That, I believe, no, number 30 is being announced on Backstage for the men. Numbers 1 and 2 are being announced for the women on Backstage. So that's how it'll go there. Manny, still our news guy, says, Dave Meltzer, take it with a grain of salt, said Brock doesn't have a contract and Ronda doesn't want to return right now for the Rumble. I don't believe there are any wrestling journalists in the world that we should believe wholeheartedly everything they say. We should always be willing to do our own research and see what other people are saying as well. I just think that's a good way of working in journalism. Dave Meltzer has been right on a lot of things in the past. I think he's incredibly misquoted, but there are also things that he's been wrong about, as is true with, I think, all journalists have at some point being wrong about something. That's just nature of the beast. Nobody has a 100% record. That's fact. Brock, to my knowledge, does not have a contract right now, but I don't think he would mind having a one-off payday. Let's be honest. Ronda Rousey, I don't think she'll be there. I don't. Mostly because she worked her 12 months and we haven't seen her in WWE ring since. I keep getting told she had a 3-year contract. I would love a 3-year contract where I didn't have to turn up for work for the last 2. That'd be great. I would have no issue with that. And Anne says the rumor suggesting a controversial ending to the Rumble match. So is it possible that Randy and someone of the last 2 remaining and suddenly lights out and Randy disappears so no one wins? That would be awful. Awful. That would be awful. Absolutely awful. So yeah, that could very much be what is. However, I want to sort of interpret the WrestleVotes tweet that has stirred this controversial ending concept. In the WrestleVotes tweet, the person behind WrestleVotes, obviously they have no accountability. We don't know their name. We don't see their face. They are immune to criticism in that regard. So we can't vet them, but we vet them by the reports they make, which have been accurate over the years. They have an incredibly good record. So what they were saying was essentially that a controversial ending is being considered. They didn't tell us anything about what that controversial ending might be, and they didn't tell us whether or not it was going to actually happen. So yes, there are rumors, and I think it's making people think very bad things about what the Royal Rumble could be. But in addition, what this also serves is the WWE's purpose. Because while there are rumors of bad endings, that means that an okay ending is suddenly a good ending. So it makes whatever the finish might be better. Who knows? The Star Wars Lounge said if Brock was to return and win, who would he actually choose to take on at Mania? As I assume he'd want revenge against Drew, but then he would also want Roman because of Heyman going with him. That is a really good question. Brock Lesnar has the most storyline history with any potential opponent going into this. That kind of includes Finn Balor down in NXT. Like there is something I was positing about Keith Lee. If, for example, Karrion Kross wins the NXT title from Finn Balor, Keith Lee could win a Rumble and go back down to NXT to face Karrion Kross again as a possibility. You just say, I was injured in that match, I want a rematch. There are a number of possibilities. But when it comes to Brock, he has the most history with anyone. So whatever the storyline might be, you could pluck it out of nowhere. Now, there were rumors about a match being planned for WrestleMania that was Drew McIntyre versus Brock Lesnar versus Keith Lee. So in that regard, Brock would then have to be facing off with Drew McIntyre. But I think it would make more sense then for Keith Lee to win and then Brock to come in once the match between Keith Lee and Drew was already there. I think that would be the best way to play that. So it's hard to play it out like that. I think if Brock comes in and wins the Royal Rumble, he'd be going for Roman because Roman hasn't beaten Brock. He hasn't. Now, Seth Rollins has used a Roman match to beat Brock, but Roman has never actually beaten Brock other than that match at SummerSlam when he was very distracted by Braun Strowman. And even then, it was 1, 2, 3 kick out. So you can write things about it. Plus, he had a chair on his face. Brock had a chair on his face. There's only so much you can do with a chair on your face. I think logically, he'd be going after Roman Reigns. Manny says, I think the controversial ending is Goldberg winning the Rumble, but that's just me. That would be a controversial finish. Let me know what everybody thinks the controversial ending could be. What is your worst Royal Rumble finish? What Royal Rumble finish do you absolutely not, under any circumstances, want to see? Ellie Line says, do you think Dominic Mysterio is suited for the main roster? If not, should he go to NXT? Now, a year and a half ago, I reported that Dominic Mysterio would be skipping NXT, and a whole year later, he actually finally debuted, but he had skipped NXT. So this is something I have talked about quite a bit in the past. I don't think Dominic Mysterio suits NXT because he will get over more by working with his father, and his father needs to be on the main roster. Rey Mysterio is not an NXT guy, even though he could have great matches. If he had 3 months in NXT, we'd have great matches. But Dominic, I think, is happy being on the main roster, and I think that suits him better. So I think that's what we will be seeing going forwards. I don't think he's suited more for NXT per se, but I think they just need to give him an actual opportunity because at the moment, what's going on with Baron Corbin, they're not having long matches, and I don't think Corbin and Mysterio were the perfect opponents for each other. Even though Corbin is sort of the litmus test. Like, if you can have a great match with Baron Corbin, you can have a great match because Baron Corbin's safe, he's consistent, he really lays his stuff in. He'd be very good in New Japan, for example. So that is one of the concepts that they have. Manny says, the thing is that they can do whatever and not having fans and being mad, so it could happen. It could, but to be fair, they had fans when Charlotte Flair won it, and that made a lot of people mad. Anan says, worst Rumble finish would be last two superstars landing on their feet at the same time, so technically there would be no winner. That has happened on a small number of occasions, and they tend to just restart the match. As has happened with John Cena and Batista way back when, as should have happened with The Rock and The Big Show. The Big Show should have won, but The Rock ended up winning. So it has happened every now and then. Technically there would be no winner, but they would find a way to get a winner. The Royal Rumble is not something that has no winner. Vince, the Royal Rumble is not something that has no winner. Tom said no. Ed. Dominic or Shane McMahon are my scary ideas to win the Rumble. How dare you put that out into the universe that Shane McMahon could be a Royal Rumble winner? How dare you? Vince? Shane McMahon cannot win the Royal Rumble. I don't care if he's the best in the world. No. Can I get some love for Adam Pearce? Can Adam Pearce win the Royal Rumble? He's earned it. Can Nia Jax win the Men's Rumble? People wouldn't like that. Shane versus a tribal chief at WrestleMania 37. That would be one family against another. It would be the Anoa'i family against the McMahon family. Manny says it's a bad finish, but having Lana come out at number 30 and then the other two eliminate and Lana wins, I wouldn't hate it. I wouldn't hate it, to be completely honest, but we know Lana doesn't get the matches. We know she doesn't get the matches, which is really unfortunate. When it comes to the big moments, she does not get the rub of the green. It's not a good thing. Star Wars Lounge is of the same mind I am. Nia Jax coming into again, but actually winning it. Yeah, I believe you would have been typing that before I said it. So great minds think alike. I should just point out, because I haven't said this yet, if you're watching on YouTube, please remember to click like on the video. That helps me grow. That helps me grow my audience and my subscribership. Because at the moment my subscriber number isn't actually going up, which is strange, but probably because I'm directing people towards Twitch. If you're watching on Twitch, please remember to click follow. And if you're watching on YouTube, please remember to go over to Twitch, twitch.tv/Tom Colohue, and click follow. That's really helpful for me in potential growth there and long-term income. There's a lot that I'm working on at the minute trying to make happen there. The watch along will be on both YouTube and Twitch, but in future, once I reach a certain target on Twitch, all live content will be moving there. All live content, because it's going to be at least a year before I can make money on YouTube. But if I just had 10% of the subscribers that I have on YouTube over on Twitch, I could make money there. So please be aware, live content will be moving all onto Twitch eventually. So that's the place I need to make sure people are following. You will still get videos here, reviews, previews, playbacks, and I'll be taking videos from Twitch and putting them here, but you won't be able to ask questions. So please do remember to follow on Twitch. Anand says, do you think WWE can plant seeds for Dominic versus Ray at WrestleMania by making Dominic eliminate Ray, or vice versa? Would be even better a Rumble, maybe accidentally. That's a play that they can do. It's a play. It's out of the playbook that they keep going back to. So it's something that I could definitely see happening. It depends if anyone else is going to do it, because I think Keith Lee and Sheamus will have that spot, and I don't think they'll want to do it twice. I think that'll be a Keith Lee Sheamus moment. With Sheamus eliminating Keith Lee and Keith Lee eventually turning heel because of it. You know how it goes. Manny says, I hope Mandy and Dana, Liv, Peyton actually get some time out thrown out immediately. I'd like that. Liv Morgan and Mandy Rose, in fact, have history of being eliminated very, very early. I also really hope Sonya Deville's in it. Announce Sonya Deville at number 1. Okay, that'd be great. Manny says, Chelsea, I hope we'll be making her return at the Rumble. That'd be great. Yeah, we haven't seen her in a long time. I don't know if she's back, though. Anand says, what's your follower count on Twitch right now? I guess you have to get to 50 followers to start monetizing. Yes, you do. 50 followers to start monetizing, but on Twitch, it's subscribers are subscribing at a cost, whereas on YouTube, people are just watching. So there are a number of aspects to it. I'm not going to immediately be making a ton of money, but that's the hope. You know, that I'll be able to make something out of it. But yes, I need to get to 50 at the moment. I'm on 26. I have my show right there. I've only been doing it a couple of weeks, but I'm on 26. I pick up more than one a day, so that's pretty good. But yeah, 24 more. I have nearly 9,500 people on Twitter, and I've been pumping this hard. Still only 26. Hopefully the big watch along will draw attention. Star Wars Lounge says, Sheamus deserves another face world title run. You'd be hard-pressed to find too many people who agree historically, but recently, Sheamus has been doing really well. He hasn't had a full-fledged face turn yet from what was going on with Jeff Hardy, but there was pretty clear evidence that he wasn't the one who ran Hardy over anyway. Funny old world. Funny old world. I'm out of questions at the moment. Just quickly, Manny. I'll definitely be popping into the live stream on Sunday. Thank you, Manny. Look forward to seeing you there. And let's just run over what's left of the preview that I've got. We may see Charlotte Flair and Asuka on SmackDown, but I think they will be too busy with Nia Jax and Shayna Baszler. My suspicion is that we will see a rematch when it comes to Charlotte Flair and Asuka versus the Riot Squad, but I think it's more likely we will see Natalya and Tamina versus the Riot Squad. With, of course, Billie Kay in and around their corner, trying to find someone to team up with. If we do see Charlotte Flair and Asuka come across, then I suspect Nia Jax and Shayna Baszler will follow, lay in the attack, and that will be part of the go-home show mentality. One of the reasons that Raw doesn't feel like a go-home show anymore is because SmackDown is the actual go-home show. We may also see a continuation of what's been going on with Daniel Bryan and Cesaro. I don't think we're going to see another match. I think Cesaro will probably have another open challenge. They are just being used to sort of push towards the Rumble build. So I think if Nakamura does return, we are going to see Ziggler and Rude attacking Cesaro, maybe attacking Bryan as well. And then Bryan and Cesaro, maybe Nakamura, throws him over the top rope, and Michael Cole, for about 20 minutes, says, if this had been the Royal Rumble, they'd have been eliminated. You know, that really unique thing he says. But it's also the case that there's going to be a big brawl tonight. There's going to be some big brawl with people getting thrown over the top rope. They do it every single year. So who knows? Who knows? Talked about Bianca Belair and Bayley wrestling. Talked about Nakamura being missing. Okay, the last point is about Rey and Dominic versus Corbin. We have talked about that briefly, but we've not really gotten into it. So when it comes to Rey Mysterio and Dominic Mysterio, Rey talked about bringing someone in to take on Baron Corbin. Can you let me know who you think he's going to bring in? I think it might be Cain Velasquez, but there were also other ideas suggested. For example, Buddy Murphy, and also Seth Rollins was mentioned. Seth Rollins was highlighted briefly as potentially coming back a couple of weeks ago, but there was apparently something that prevented that from happening. Not going to go into any detail. One, I don't have any detail, and two, it's not my place to say. He is likely to return at the Royal Rumble, but he also may not return. I'm saying here likely. I can't say for certain he's going to return, but I think it's likely he will return. But I don't think he'll be coming in to defend the Mysterios against Baron Corbin. Cain Velasquez, for me, is a logical choice. If he has got a contract again, that also brings in some previous suggestions of ideas that will get big names for WrestleMania. When it comes to the Peacock deal particularly, Cain Velasquez has that crossover appeal, even though it was really awkward last time he was in a WWE ring. Star Wars Lounge also says, I should be there on Sunday, should be good. Thank you, Star Wars Lounge. Look forward to seeing you there as well. I've got a few guests coming in. Some of them you guys probably won't know, but I've got someone who's worked with me in podcasting before, someone I've been in a couple of group chats with, someone I've been working with in PW Torch for the last few weeks. So it's not like I'm bringing in Roman Reigns or anything, but I'm bringing in some notable voices, some passionate fans who will be joining me and making sure that I don't have to carry all of the load for 7 hours. And that's if it's only a 3-hour main show. This may get long because I'm going to do a pre-show from 9, so an hour before the actual pre-show starts. Then there's the pre-show, which I believe is 2 hours this year, the main show, and then a post-show. It's going to be long. That's all I'll say. So I'd very much appreciate you dropping in. Manny says, if Women's Rumble closes and they have someone big returning, yeah, whichever Rumble closes is going to be quite telling. And I think the fact that they're not telling us who the number 30 is in the Women's Rumble suggests that the Women's Rumble will main event, particularly if number 30 is Ronda Rousey. Yeah. Michael Latina says, where do you think this storyline with Billy is leading? I'm honestly not sure. I think it was supposed to be maybe a 1 or 2 week thing because they didn't have anything for her, much like they didn't have much for Peyton when they broke them up and split them up. That was confusing to me. Peyton is now teaming with Lacey Evans, but Lacey Evans has a storyline completely independent of Peyton Royce. But Peyton Royce has been doing media recently, which suggests he's going to have a big moment. Maybe Peyton and Billy will see each other again in the Royal Rumble. That would be a really nice moment. And maybe they could team up again. And maybe they could forget this whole being on separate brands thing. Why did you break them up? But honestly, I think maybe it was going to be a 2 or 3 week storyline, but it's worked. It has worked. So they've been giving her more and more to do. That, I think, is the right choice, but I think they may be making up as they go along. Not necessarily a bad thing. It says Ray might bring in Chavo, as I know Triple H is having Chavo help out with the possible NXT Mexico. That's not a bad shout. That's a really good call. That could definitely happen. It's been a while since we've seen him. I've seen him more on Lucha Underground recently than at any WWE. But yeah, I could definitely see that happening. That makes sense and really adds to the Mysterio family feel. Not sure Chavo would either want to beat Baron Corbin, but who knows? It's another body, as it were. Sourwood Lounge said, would it be too soon for Becky returning after giving birth? I think so, yes. It takes a while, depending obviously on the actual childbirth. There are many different things that can happen. But for anyone who is experienced in childbirth or has been around people who have talked about childbirth, there's a lot that can happen. For example, there is a cut or tear element. So there's a lot that can happen. Some of it takes a long time to recover from. In addition to that, obviously, your body has been prepared to house life for 9 months. That doesn't go away overnight. If Becky Lynch was in the Rumble, they would have to seriously protect her, and I don't think she would want that. So I think it is far too early, and I think for at least a little while, particularly in the COVID era, she would rather just stay at home with the child. However, that's my opinion. That's just my opinion. That is all the questions I have. That is all the preview I have. And I am going to go and see my mother, who I'm in a support bubble with at the moment. We are getting a takeaway, and I am checking if they need anything from the shop. So I'm going to head off at this point. Thank you to everyone who has jumped in on YouTube, who has clicked like, who has left a comment. Thank you as well to everyone who jumped in on Twitch, who's left a comment, or who's just viewed on Twitch, because it's very helpful viewing on Twitch to get my averages up. That's how you get to the real big numbers. And that's the plan. Please do remember, the big thing that I'm trying to push is that this coming Sunday, starting an hour before the pre-show of the Royal Rumble on YouTube and on Twitch, we will have a massive Royal Rumble watch along. The first hour will also be on Twitter, but once the pre-show starts, it will come off Twitter. So you'll have reminders. But if you see it on Twitter, you can drop in there, but at the end of that hour, it'll be going off, and I'll be needing people to move to either YouTube or Twitch. The idea is to move as many people to Twitch as possible, so I won't be mentioning YouTube much from here. So thank you to everyone who's jumped in and joined me in just over 3 hours. This being on YouTube, a Royal Rumble prediction video will go live. It's all edited. It's all ready to go. I just got to click the upload button after this, and then I'll go off and do my own thing. But it will be going live, so please be sure to check that out. Click like on it, and the longer you watch of it, the better, because it's a moderately long one from my viewing. Thank you to everyone. I'm just going to say good night